Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Peter Abraham. I'm a second career registered nurse focused in the areas of advanced illnesses, typically those that would qualify for either palliative care or hospice care. Those are two separate types of services. I'm also a certified end-of-life doula through the International Doula Life Movement, an avid writer having published well over 500 healthcare articles, an avid book author and self-publisher having published 21 books for hospice nurses, 24 for caregivers, 5 for holistic nurses, and 6 for my fellow end-of-life doulas. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to visit. In this channel, we talk about issues related to death and dying. After all, we are all going to die. Shouldn't we know what that process looks like? I'll have videos for my fellow hospice nurses, my fellow holistic nurses, patients, caregivers, family members, and my fellow end-of-life practitioners, often of whom are my fellow end-of-life doulas. If these are topics of interest, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell notification below. I try to publish videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Occasionally, some weeks will be more. Sometimes I'll throw in a gardening update or a house project update. And also, if you like a particular video that you're watching, please hit the like button below. It helps gets the word out. This is not about monetization. This channel's not monetized. It may never be, who knows? It's more a matter of I'd like to spread the word. The topic for today's video is going to be those looking at filling out their end-of-life documents. This is not going to be in-depth. It's going to be a bird's eye view, and it's specific in terms of answering a question from a fellow end-of-life doula. Her first name is Laura, not to be confused with my wife, who has that first name too. But she asked a very good question in the movement, one of the international life movements, social media venues of how do we communicate with one another. How does one teach and get into this advanced care planning? So I wanted to answer her question in more detail, giving you my thoughts. And also, while I strongly recommend if you are someone interested in having your living will done, while you can certainly do it from what I'm going to be sharing today, you'll be much more well informed than beforehand, my hope. Yes, I'm biased. I do hope you'd seek somebody like me or others who I have either gone through training or have educated themselves so that they feel comfortable walking you through this journey so nothing is missed. But even if you go, gee, I'm going to be frugal, because to be honest, I'm a frugal person and I'm going to do it myself. I'm not going to involve third parties to save money. Understand that you could redo this document anytime. So even if it's like, yeah, I'm going to save money. Oops, I made some mistakes along the way. Maybe like armchair quarterbacking, you find this out several months later. Go back and fix it. It's not the end of the world. So before I go too much farther for today's topic, I want to ask you, what are you grateful for? What are you grateful for? I strongly believe in building resilience. Resilience is 3 pillars. We talk about the third pillar, gratitude, in this channel, just briefly, because I believe that when we build resilience, when things happen to us or at us, bad day, however you want to word it, uh, you're more likely to bounce back than somebody who has not been practicing resilience. You're more likely to go in depression and sadness and just feel like I can't get out of this funk if you're not working on building resilience. It's not that it's impossible. It's not that the only way. It's just, to me, multiple years among the best ways. What are you grateful for? So I'm grateful for my wife who has gone through, she's been working on this house that we live in Kentucky. We're soon coming up on 1 year in Kentucky. So by the time you see this video, I often film my video anywhere from a few days to a week or two in advance of publication. So by the time you see this video, it's probably going to be 1 year. We moved in mid-November 2024. So I'm grateful that she's takes such good care of her house. She's been changing the shutters on her windows, the front door, to be a more healthier, more attractive color than something that was drab. Uh, so I appreciate that. I always appreciate you, my viewer, coming to watch my videos, even if I don't know your name, even if you don't comment down below. It's a non-judgmental channel. Feel free to comment. But I appreciate that. I appreciate everyone who's buying and reading my books. Tamara, who bought my The Hospice Journey Handbook. One moment, please. Yes, this is impromptu. She ended up buying, this is my most recent, my 24th book for uh, caregivers, looking at the complete journey through hospice from a non-marketing, brutal reality, both the good, bad, and ugly about hospice and how to walk somebody through that journey, including recommending death and dying. And Amazon had improperly packaged it, so her copy had ripped a little bit on the spine, and she wanted to let me know in case I have any power with Amazon. I don't. But I did offer to send her a free replacement copy on me. That's I appreciate. She's bought like every book I've ever written, so I thank you so much. And she said she was able to use her tape and her crafting skills, and it's as good as new. So, but I appreciate her and everyone who's out there buying these books. It really helps me operate Compassion Crossing LLC on a sliding scale basis. I do so much work for free or reduced cost. Free is the most common denominator because in Kentucky we do have a lot of poverty. It's very odd from different places that I lived through my 62 years. I've lived in places uh, where the entire town was in poverty. The entire town. I've lived in places where if you go to a certain section of the town or city, it was impoverished. And that's what I'm used to. I'm used to either the entire town or city or a section or a couple sections here and there. But in Kentucky, you could actually have your next door neighbor might be beyond impoverished on your left or right. I don't want to pick on like because somebody might go, the right's this and the left is that. Oh my word, sorry. But you're one neighbor on one side, or it could be front or back. One neighbor is desperate for food and paying bills and at the edge of losing everything. And then your other neighbor is not just like a king, it's like a millionaire. I'm not saying they have a million, but it's that stark contrast from house to house, neighbor to neighbor. It's not section. It's beyond mind blowing for me. And so I'm grateful to God who provides. I'm grateful for God who provides. So I do want to get into the topic for today's video. One of my, I don't want to say classmate because she's going through a different cohort than I am, but she asked a fellow end-of-life doula, I want to be able to offer this service to my doula clients. And many of us, by the way, are doing this either low cost, free, again, mine sliding scale. But I want to be able to offer this. How do I get there? How do I get there? And I need to tell you, and I'm going to keep it short, but I need to tell you what I told her because I do believe it's critical. Uh, for right now, there's no training program I can recommend. I did go through a training program. I'm not going to name it. Not going to name it. Anyone who's been following this channel probably knows where I went. I don't recommend that course at all. At negative 10 out of 10. On one end, I learned that, gee, this is what not to do. Um, in part because of how much time for several weeks, 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes, week after week after week, several times a week, because it's twice a week class, bashing this document, which from 1996 they should have known. I'm not going to go into the why, that's a different video. But it was like most of us, and we're a number of our classmates were Facebook messaging or texting. Oh my word, I'm teaching myself. I am teaching myself because there was so much missing or not covered. So right now, there's not a single school I could recommend or class for advanced care planning. So I want to give you guidance as to how to learn to do this. And when I say brief, I know some of you laugh, Peter, and brief don't go hand in hand. Number one, and yes, I am biased. I wrote this book. Martin Lewis, one of my Facebook friends, we came together when I was helping remotely, and Martin's mentioned in this book. My memory's correct. Give me 1 second. Yes, I did. Um, he's one of the persons I dedicated this book to. So even you'd find out his name anyway if you had got the book. But he was such a strong advocate for his mother, and I met him in the one. Well, actually, I think in two different, maybe it was two or three Facebook groups, including a hospice and end of life group. And he said, Peter, you need to write a book that goes well and above a living will. And if one of these days, this was written, I believe, last, either it published early this year. When did it come out? Sorry, my short-term memory. If you've been watching, I don't have short-term memory at all. Okay, so it was early this year because the copyright's 2025. So possibly next year I will be updating this. I'll show you why in a few moments because there are some things I could have covered in more depth, which is part of this video. But if you want this, it's on Amazon. I'll put in a link below. You do not have to get this, by the way, in order to teach. I'm going to be covering the different points today. But if you like having something in writing that you can go and reference to, and so that you are fully informed, because there are people out there that are exclusive. And I'm picking on that word on purpose. There are people that will say, we're inclusive, so we're going to bash this document because we're inclusive, and this document isn't inclusive, so they're going to throw it out. Oxymoronic idiocy. If you're throwing stuff out left and right, and you're unfriending people left and right because they don't agree with you, and you don't know, you're an adult and you don't know how to disagree to agree, you're exclusive, literally. You're exclusive. So this book, so that you're aware, does use this. This book does use this. I had another classmate who says, I want to use this. Your business, no one else is paying your bills. I wanted to scream the other day because somebody got on. You shouldn't be using this. They're not paying your bills. They're not giving you an income, your business, your way. Blow my mind. So you could use this document, 5 wishes. So what I shared with this person, and my answer doesn't change, but I'm going to go in more detail here, is you want to learn, you pick one. Pick your, I don't want to say poison, but pick what you want to focus on. Pick either this, 5wishes.org, 5wishes.org, and they have, this is not just their only product. They have pediatric, that's what makes them extremely unique. They don't just have adults. But pick 5 wishes or your state document. I actually do both. I'm weird. I do both. So you're going to pick your state document, which I'm going to give links in the description below, how you can find your advanced directive, all 50 states. AARP through caring, I think it's caring.info. I'll bring it up in a moment again. My short-term memory is horrible. Yeah, caringinfo.org. So you pick your advanced directive that you want to learn, and you memorize the living daylights out of it. I am being blunt. You memorize the living daylights because you want to know the ins and the outs. You want to know the caveats. You want to know any restrictions for the power of attorney. Almost every state, I don't know all 50 states. I want to put that disclaimer. Number one, this is educational advice, education information only, not giving legal advice, not giving medical advice, blah, blah, blah. But you want to know the ins and outs. Every advanced directive that I shouldn't say every, the majority that I'm aware of, they include a section for the durable power of attorney. They include a section. This is 5 wishes, so they include a section. And then they have what makes 5 wishes very good document to use. They'll have different areas. When this happens, I want. When that happens, I want. It literally does walk you through uh, your 5 wishes. And there are many hospice agencies that use 5 wishes. I keep coming back to here because it still blows my mind to this day for the course I took that from 1996 they've been associated with Mother Teresa, and only recently they've been complaining about inclusive versus to me it's exclusive. But it's like, are you kidding me that you didn't know what Mother Teresa stood for her entire life? Blows my mind. Anyway, so but you're going to know your state documents. So I'm going to be putting in a link in the description below. 5wishes.org. I'm already telling you the link. It's very easy for that one. I'll put in the link for, again, caringinfo.org, caringinfo.org. I'm going to put in a link description below for that. And then I'm not done yet with the video, so bear with me. But because I want to cover what this process looks like. Because if it's just those two, and here's a book, to me, sorry, allergies in the morning, uh, it's not thorough. So, but first in the foundation is you have to know your state documents. So you're going to get those. And then what I also recommend doing, because many states, like Kentucky is one of them, if you go to Kentucky, so go to Google, Kentucky in quotes, the word and, all uppercase, and I'll again put this in the description below, and there are spaces in between, and then in quotes, advanced directive forms or advanced directives, and Google that. You'll get led, you get better search information. The word, just so you know, is that quick FYI with Google and most search engines, if you use uppercase, all uppercase, and which means these two have to be true on both sides or however many you chain together, and then or, which means either or. So, but when you get used to using search terms like that, you can refine your results versus getting a lot of garbage information. But you want to get those, and I'm going to go through today what Kentucky has. And by having those additional documents and learning those documents, you're going to be able to provide this. Or if you're here wanting to know how to fill it out better. But one of the things that I do, okay, I have all these forms. Now what, Peter? Now what? That's what I want to deal with. So this is my own work, which, by the way, I thought in the class would give you a checklist because the person's been doing this for years and there is no checklist. Oh, I'll get to you starting August 12th and class ended October 23rd, still no checklist. But I came up with my own. A number of us, again, we self-taught. Right now, there's not a class. We self-taught ourselves. But I came up with a 2-page checklist. And while I'm not going to be right now publishing that, I'm going to be verbalizing a number of this. And I did have it in the screen. If you wanted to pause, go back. But I have review with the client. So I'm going to sit down. I typically, with my clients, it's anywhere from, for some people who are completely rushed, just give me the forms. And then we're talking sliding scale. They want to do this for free, and they just, even though they can download them, okay, fine. The human connection. I'd rather that than the alternative. At least I got to get to know them at least this much. But if I'm able to have a conversation, we're talking anywhere from a 1 to 3 hour. A lot of times a client will say, can we meet multiple times? Because 3 hours, one session is too much. So like with the one person, I've already met, over 2 hours, 2 1-hour sessions. So review with the client. So you want to ask, is there any existing living will documentation when it was last updated? The reason being is you want to review what was there, what do you want to keep, what do you want to get rid of, and you want to make sure that if it's being replaced, it's properly destroyed, including every last copy. You need to know where these documents are at. And if you're the person helping the person, you want to ask these questions. Where are they at? because if they're being replaced, every last copy must be shredded, destroyed. Otherwise, if they come up, even though they're going to be dated, you don't want to create a moment. If you're in crisis, they're not going to necessarily check dates. You would hope they would, but if there's a crisis, they're going to go with the first thing they find. So you want to make sure that. And before I go too much further, blue ink over black ink, blue ink over black ink, blue ink, blue ink, blue ink. Uh, Properly witnessed and notarized, even if they say you can use either or. If you have no clue, sorry for my allergies, how many witnesses? No, the documents don't state any two, unrelated to the person filling out the form. If you're an end-of-life doula, you do not put your fingers, other than handing, you don't fill out the form. The person who the living will is fills out the form. The person who's deciding the power of attorney fills out the form. They fill out the form. We guide them. And when I say guide them, we're not holding their hand, being very blunt. So find that out. What I like to do too, and as I share this, you do you, me do me. I like to find out if they have a pacemaker, an ICD, or any other implantable devices. Pacemakers don't matter so much. Pacemakers don't extend life if they're dying. It's more the ICD, the defibrillator part. That needs to be in the document, because if they're lying and they're dying, I shouldn't say lying, if they're dying somewhere, you don't want that defibrillator going off and shocking them and throwing them back and having them in pain, and having family members distressed, and having healthcare workers rush to find a magnet to put over the spot. You do not want that for your loved one. So you need to know that. And by the way, if there's an implantable device, they typically are giving a pocket card. You want to make a copy of the front and back of the card to include with the living will document. Sorry, pardon me. You want to have a discussion on their code status. Full, which is do everything possible. Limited interventions, which by the way become full. We'll go over that in a moment. Comfort only, antibiotic use, IV fluids, feeding tubes. You want to have those conversations. And I mentioned that anything that is, if you have DNR, do not resuscitate, and comfort measures only, those go hand in hand. Do not resuscitate, comfort measures only. You can have on most MOST, medical order, L silent, life-sustaining treatment, or POLST, physician's order for life-sustaining treatment. They have sections. First one, CPR versus DNR. Second area, this gets into part of the, I wish they would never go down this route because it creates problems. Full code, which if you're full code, you just overrode your DNR right then and there. Limited interventions, which typically mean they want to have cardiac monitoring, they'll have IV, blah, 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 blah. Cover measures only. Limited interventions, most hospices, if you're doing this at home or personal care or assisted living, they don't do IV, they don't do cardiac monitoring. You have to go to a hospital that's going to override everything else. Now you're full code in a hospital setting. That's why I believe we as end-of-life practitioners have to have serious conversations. Yes, you're allowed to do a la carte, but here's the consequences of your choices. Because many people they don't want to go back to the hospital. They want DNR, DNI, I'm sorry, DNH, do not hospitalize. DNI is do not intubate. They want DNR, DNI, DNH. Then they'll put, oh, I'm okay for cardiac monitoring. Now you're in a hospital and they're going to put you on full code. You need the conversation. That's part of why I have this checklist. Dialysis, we'll go over that in a moment because I want to show you a handout that I have. With dialysis, it's not just no or yes, but you're also looking at, there's hemodialysis, which is your traditional. That's where you either have a fistula, put in, or they may have a port put in, or maybe up here, they'll have a port put in. Hemodialysis, that's your traditional dialysis, 4, 6, 8 hour sessions, 3, 4 times a week. Um, Unbelievably draining, but there's also peritoneal dialysis, which is dialysis at home, which you do this overnight. You have to, you have to sleep in a certain position. You're still connected to devices. It's extremely high risk from a point of view because there's not medical personnel sitting with you. There's nobody nearby, but it does give you that option. Pain and symptom management. Do you want maximum comfort, even if you're sedated and drooling and everything else, versus the maximum ability to participate with friends and families? Yes, you have the right to say, I want the least amount of pain medication as possible. And you get to describe, you, the person that would be filling this out, what does that picture look like? And we, as fellow end-of-life practitioners, get to work with our clients on this. Do you want to engage in voluntarily stopping eating and drinking? V said if and when. This is often chosen, not, you don't have to choose it with this combination, but it's often chosen when the loved one develops dementia and they're going to stop eating, and the natural dying process, you stop eating and drinking. But a lot of them will say, and I'll take you through some of the documents, not line by line, so don't panic if you're watching this. How long will this video be? But those are considerations to have. Powder sedation, which is also legal in all 50 states, powder sedation is purposely putting somebody in a medical coma. So it closely relates to, somebody says maximum comfort if even if sedated. That comes close. That comes close. Usually from that part, and I'm speaking as a hospice nurse, that part, they're very lethargic. I'm not purposely trying to have them in a coma if I'm trying to have maximum pain relief. But if they want powder sedation, with agreement from all parties, and this does require, it absolutely requires a hospice medical director that's on board, a hospice team that's on board, and if you're at a facility, the facility staff that's on board. I cannot emphasize it enough. It's legal in all 50 states, but for any of you who work in healthcare, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes people are not on board, even if it's legal, even if it's ethical, even if it's moral. They're not on board. So you have to know the bet. If you know this in advance, you could start working on trying to get people to understand why it's okay, why it's not the same as euthanizing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Does the client have a current way to communicate all passwords to appropriate parties? By the way, if we're helping somebody with this, we don't get the copies. Okay, now, this is not just a HIPAA issue. This is protect your own rear end issue. I don't want to ever be accused of foul play. You want to make sure that they know where their stuff is at so they could direct their power of attorney. Does the client have copies, or can they get, passport, driver's license, other vital documents, health, wills, trust? Can the originals be stored consistently so the POA can access them? If the client is the primary caregiver for others, this is beyond common as we age. This could be they're caring for children, they're caring for their parents, they're caring for the next door neighbor. Uh, you need to know that, because if that person who's doing all the caregiving is now incapacitated, who's caring for them? What if nobody knows that they need somebody to care for them? Sometimes the person who's doing the caring is the only person. Now, no one knows the other parties need care. Are there any pets involved? Don't forget the pets. They're, to me, like their family. Openness to palliative care and hospice. And by the way, I don't claim, this is last updated September 11th of this year, the date after the brutal assassination of Charlie Kirk, who I stand with, by the way, if you haven't gotten a clue. I stand with 5 Wishes. I stand first and foremost with Christ Jesus. I stand with Charlie Kirk and his family and his legacy. I stand with 5 Wishes. I am inclusive. I don't try to exclude people because they have this belief or that belief, and I don't even exclude the excluders, by the way. The first part is for the clients. I'm reviewing them with the clients. The rest of the parts including the back page, that's for me or people or you if you're helping others. So blue ink only the client fills out the forms. I have check boxes. You know, did we do the advanced directive, the power of attorney state specific? Did we do the additional directives? I'm going to take you through a little bit of each. The dementia directive, the VSED directive. I like the VSED directive as a liability release section because a lot of people who do VSED, uh, you need help on this journey. You do not want to do this alone. Everybody who dies, everyone who dies will get a point in time where they can't walk anymore. You will become incontinent of bowel and bladder. You'll need to be kept clean. And while you may not need pain or symptom relief medication, most likely you will, and somebody will have to give that to you. You most likely will have a period of terminal restlessness where you'll need medication. And yes, you can go on hospice at a certain point in time. What V said, the more progressive, the more liberal hospice agencies will take you on sooner than later. But you need somebody to advocate with you. This is why many of them will contract. And remember, there's people like me, sliding scale, a lot of times because people are buying, when you buy, my books, that helps go to allow me to provide sliding scale free services when able. I can't say everybody's free. If you're able to pay, I have bills to pay too. But we go through that. There's mental health directors. Did I do all the addendums? You want to number any addendums, 1 of X, 2 of X, 3 of X, maybe you have 4. 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, that's what the X is. Were they properly referenced? That's part of the 1 of X, by the way. Were they properly notarized and witnessed? You want everything, everywhere where I'll go over in a moment, properly notarized and witnessed, in addition to the state documents. Any separate POA form, some states have separate POA forms. And some people like me, I'm the overcompulsive planner, I mentioned that on my channel. Uh, I want to play safe because the documents I use do incorporate the POA, but I have additional POA forms because what I don't want to do is I don't want to walk away from the person I've helped and they get into a situation where now these documents come into play and the state goes and says, you're missing this one form. Like Kentucky has a vehicle form. You're missing this vehicle form. Or you're missing this for your child. So I'll go over Kentucky in a moment. Again, it won't be due line by line. So the POA forms, the POLST, if it's applicable, MOST, if it's applicable, list of emergency contacts. And again, I would not have those. I've gone over them with the client. The current medication list, by the way, I do medication reviews, so that's part of my thing. If they would allow me to have, that's the one I would ask them for if they want me to review it. Any information form, that's for them to keep. DNI order, if they have one. Kentucky does allow you to have a DNR that's not signed by a doctor. Love that for Kentucky. Proper completion steps, that they filled it out with blue ink. Several copies were made, witness notarized. By the way, if you're helping somebody with them, you don't have to go with them to the notary. And very, very, very important. This is one thing that I do believe that the class that I went to got right. There were certain elements that they got right, but I wouldn't have paid the money that I paid for just that one item. And just to be clear, if you are a notary as part of what you offer, you don't want to notarize these documents for your client because you don't want to have any third party saying that you interfered with the decision-making process, even if you were not named, because money does go under the table. You don't want to involve yourself with any risk. Most libraries have either free or low-cost notary services. Most libraries have either free or low-cost notary services. Sometimes you can go to a hospital and call in advance. Do you notarize living will documents? They might. Call around and go get notarized. They'll get witnesses and so on. Or you can go to like free will clinics. There's a I can't remember the name of the legal aid. I apologize for this, but there's one I started following. My short-term memory is like this. that's going around the state of Kentucky doing like last will and testaments, and they'll even do the what I'm doing for free without even the sliding scale. So, but they'll go grab. I was a witness, not for somebody I was doing the work for, but like when I went to that free will clinic, the attorneys were calling me, "Oh, Peter, do you mind coming over and being a witness?" Um, you want to have them have keep the documents in an area that the original that they know where it's at. Distribution list they need to know. Your healthcare agent, alternative agent, your primary doctor specialist, your local hospital, medical records department, close family members, your lawyer if you have one. And then for me, this is very important for fellow end of life practitioners in this regular review, like reach out every 3 months. Hey, any changes? Annually, if they're healthy, any other significant changes when they move to a different state, because remember the state directives can be different. If their healthcare agent changes, many loved ones will involve their spouses. If they get divorced, things change, so on and so forth. So that's one. Now this is the part where I'm going to try to roll quickly. Bear with me because I said not line by line. Compassionate choices in terms of those who are sitting down with people, and again, I hand this out to people who want to do this on their own. But they'll have a values worksheet. So part of the reason for doing the values worksheet, this is not your living will, but part of this is having the person explore their values. I'm the geeky nerd. I love writing articles, not just on videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but on compassioncrossing.info. I have right now articles are written through mid-February of 2026. Yes, I'm that much of a geek. But I phrase it. Sorry. Oh my word, I lost my train of thought. I lost my train of oh, getting into having the communication. This helps. Oh, sorry. Now I've reconnected. Sorry about that brain blip. One of the articles that I have coming up, if not already published, is I think it was around 36, 37%, 40 if you round up, of Americans, when they get their medical procedures done, they don't feel their providers are honoring their values. Imagine that. A lot of people don't advocate for themselves. I participate in the busiest Facebook group for hospice and end of life care. And how often I have family members asking social media, what did the hospice nurse or what did they mean by this or what did they mean by that? And I'm like, did you ask them? Oh no. They don't want to advocate. They're the expert. I love you as I'm saying this. I platonically love you as I'm saying this. You're the expert of you, and you're the expert of your loved one. When I'm somebody's hospice nurse, which I'm not at this point in time in Kentucky, I don't compete with the local hospice agency. I don't know them better than you. If I'm taking care of your loved one, if I'm involved as a doula, life transition coach, I don't know them better than you. I'm trying to, as part of my help for that person I'm helping, but I will never know them as good as you know your loved one. You have a voice, use your voice. Use it politely, professionally, compassionately. But I will tell people that even if they're screaming at me, I'm glad that you're telling me what you will, because I'd rather know than not know. Even if you're screaming at me, I'd rather them speak politely. But even if I'm getting screamed at and they're telling me what their wishes are, I'm finding out, and that's how I can advocate. So by having documents like this is their values worksheet. You can work through how they feel about different areas to fill out the advanced directives. There's a worksheet for advanced care planning. And what I will do, if you comment below, hey Peter, can you send me a copy of this? Send me a copy of that. I will consider it. If you don't ask, the answer is no. Now, I mentioned I use both Five Wishes and the Kentucky document, but this is Kentucky's. It's 8 pages back and front. And I cannot emphasize enough, Kentucky, witnesses or notary. You want this to be a legal document that will pass court muster. You want both. Blue ink, you want both. And again, moving quickly. I'm not going word for word, line by line, but Kentucky does allow you to have your own DNR order. You don't need to have a doctor's signature. Compassionate choices, compassion and choices does have a lot of documents, by the way, but they have a dementia directive. Now, just so you know, for this particular one, you may want to just email me to send me a copy. My email is part of the YouTube channel description, or put in the comments if you can't find it. The reason being is their latest one. This is a 2 pages if you print them separate or back and front. I like keep it simple and smile. I like that way of saying the KISS principle. Their most recent form, and you can go to dementia-directive. I might know if it's dementia-directives with an S or directive.org. Apologize, short-term memory. It's like 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. Nothing wrong with it. The caveats for the latest forms is it asks you, and this is not wrong, I'm going to just share my opinion. If you have mild dementia, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? If you have moderate dementia, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And if you have severe dementia, again, the 2 or 3 different criteria. The caveat is dementia is progressive. If you have mild dementia, you will have moderate, you will have severe. It is progressive. For right now, 2025, there is no cure for dementia. The medications that slow the progression are actually worse. This is medical opinion, not medical advice. I want to be extremely clear. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. But the side effects are when, not if. The side effects to slow the progression of dementia are wicked, and they do happen almost every single time. And the sad part is sometimes they're 6 months to several years later, and by then they're blaming it on dementia, and they're not even looking at stopping the medication causing the problem. Yes, this frustrates the living daylights out of me. Sorry, just noticed my screen, I have my screen on a mount is blocking a portion of the camera. But by the time they find out, oh, it's the meds, by then it's too late. It's horrible. Dementia is a horrible disease. So I like the KISS principle. So this form that they did, it's keep it simple and smile. One form to answer the same, because in mild, moderate, and severe, it's the same 2 or 3 areas that they're covering. So it's just as it worsens, do you still want these same things in play? Um, then compassionate choices have this. I believe this is their secular. Even though they use the word secular, I did have a fellow classmate. Is this a document to have them respect your religious and faith? No, there's no such document that I'm aware of. But this is just who can visit, and also, do you want to go to a particular facility if the ambulance was coming? No guarantee. So you just so you know, even if you had this witness to notarized, and if you're calling EMS, they're under laws that supersede a lot of other things. Then there's advanced directives. This is Kentucky, NAMI, NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, NAMI. Almost every state, if not all states, has an NMAI, National Alliance for Mental Illness, documents, and this is Kentucky's. So somebody gets a mental illness and they want to specify before they get the mental illness, or maybe they have one before a flare up. I want to avoid specific antipsychotic medication. The sad part, I actually hate these forms. This is where the difference between me and others, by the way, when people claim inclusive and they throw out documents because it doesn't fit their personal bias, which is exclusive. You're exclusive if you're throwing out stuff. You're exclusive. I mean, let's be real. Let's be literal. I include this even though I can't stand it, because to me, medical freedom is I don't want to use a medication. I'm going to show you the form. I don't want to use a medication. I don't have to say why. That's my business. No means no. Treat it like sex. If I say no and you go further, you're committing rape. No means no. I shouldn't have to list the whys. The sad part, that's why I hate this document, just so you know, if you haven't gotten that by now. But you can put in the medication, the reason why. Even though you're putting in the reason why, this is part of why I don't like the medication. I'd rather put no, period, because then I don't have to have somebody scrutinizing. So I'm not going to name the organization because they actually have more good about them than bad. But there is a hospice and palliative care organization in Pennsylvania. They are among the largest, and they are nonprofit. So by the way, you could probably do your homework and find out who they are that way. But if you did not want the one injectable that came out in 2021, were turbo cancers. I know that's not a medical term, just so that you're aware for those freaking out and easily offended. But there's a rapid rise of glioblastoma and other rare cancers from 2021. You can do the statistics. You can do your own homework. There's a rapid rise of extremely rare cancers from 2021. I wonder what happened in 2021, 2022 forward. And I had a medical director say it was because of a certain injectable group of products, Pfizer, Moderna, do the math, know the words. But there's a hospice and palliative care organization that if you wanted to refuse it, you had to sit before a board of doctors, doctors to share why you want a religious exemption. And this blew my mind. It literally blew my mind. Why are doctors determining whether my religious exemption is a proper religious exemption? What would, I don't have a religion, so I follow Christ Jesus to me. It's a relationship, it's faith, it's not a religion. Religion is dogma. But what do doctors know about, like, if I had a religion, what would they know? What if they're not my religion? What if nobody there is representing my religion? How would they know? So if I'm putting here on this form my reason for why I don't want this antipsychotic med, I'm a doctor. This is not a valid reason. Blah blah blah. But you do have part of what I do like about the document in terms of picking some pros. You can say, I want to be isolated. Put me in a room, lock me up in a room, or physical restraints, and you get to put in what order of preference. And again, not a fan. I shouldn't have to put the reason why, because somebody could review it. That's not a valid reason. Again, not a fan of the document. I do include it, and so that you're fully aware, fully aware, because I don't want to be the pot calling the kettle black. When I sit down with my clients, I do not tell them my bias for this. I'm telling you, my viewer, my bias for this. When I sit down with them, I just go over the form. I say, here's what you do. You don't want, trying to think of an antipsychotic. Oh my word, my brain, atypical. Uh, Gabapentin is no longer considered atypical. Let's say you don't want Klonpen. Um, oh my word, I'll be finished here, and then it was that. So, but you go down the laundry list of what medication. Okay, Seroquel, quatapine formate. You don't want Seroquel. And so I would just tell them, what meds that you don't want, give the reason for your refusal. I may guide them as to what reasons are more likely to be accepted if I know, with the understanding that I tell them I cannot give medical advice. Even when I'm in person, I can't. There's certain advice I can't give as a registered nurse, so that you're aware. But I don't don't use the form. I don't bash the form. In fact, I'll bring 5 wishes in the state form. Which would you like to use? And 5 wishes is extremely popular. Which would you like to use? And I work with them on the form. I really like Washington Helps. By the way, I did print out the instructions plus the form, but this is, walk them through this if they want VSET. Now, keeping things moving along, even though the Kentucky, the state directives and the 5 wishes have the power of attorney, I like playing safe, especially in the area that I live where notarization is free at the Madison County Library. So it doesn't matter how many pages. So, power of attorney document, the IRS has a power of attorney document for Kentucky. There's, I mentioned, the real estate. I'll walk them through. You want to transfer a vehicle in Kentucky? Again, I'm playing safe. Now, I do hope in the not too distant future, I'm going to sit in front of an attorney that I made friends with so I could do it for free. Do I need all these additional power of attorneys? Because to be honest, I don't know. I'm just playing safe for now. And they may say, and if I get it from an attorney on good advice, then I'll know. But for now, I do. For school decisions for your children. And then I do include the most form that even if they don't need it right now, I include that. And that's for Kentucky. Now, I want to close real quick. One of the things I developed that I have on the left-hand side of my documentation is I have one of my fellow classmates, actually several asked, which by the way, this was my own making. Again, a lot of us did our own homework. It wasn't covered in a lot of detail in a class. It was briefly mentioned. A lot of art, like there was a lot of stuff pointing to articles like you do your own homework. Oh, this is on the web and this is on the web. There a lot of it was like third-party resources that we could find anyway, and many of it was not in any detail. It's like bullet points, and then like we're doing our own homework. In a way, that's the best way to learn. Just giving kudos from that part. It's the best way to learn to do your own homework. But so I will walk the person through. I mentioned dialysis. We have to look at dialysis from the lens of it's a bridge. So I have understanding dialysis is a 4-page handout, but it's actually several articles. Question to ask your healthcare team to help you make a decision about dialysis. What about having a family discussion because you want your family on board? And then when you do your living will, remember I said they have to fill it out. Well, what words do I use? So I have that as part of a free handout I give them. Then I have, what about breathing? What about breathing, Peter? What are you talking about? I thought it was just, do I want to be intubated or being on a ventilator or not? Well, actually, there's BiPAP, which is similar to CPAP. So I have helped to have a discussion because that's the other thing that just so you know that I didn't understand that we didn't have in the class. It wasn't covered at all. Zero. August 12th to October 23rd, not covered at all as to how to have these conversations, how to sit down and what does this conversation look like? Where do I start? I literally asked that question at if day one, day two, because I had a meeting on September 9th. Now it did get pushed back in thanks because then it gave me time to do my own homework to figure out how to have the conversation because it wasn't discussed through the entire length of the class. What does this conversation look like? Which is why I made the checklist and just so that you know how does this conversation look like is I will sit down and I will walk them. Let's walk through the checklist. That's the first part. I walk them through that. Then I take out my handouts, literally in order, and say, let's walk through this. And after I walk through my handouts, I do the checklist first, then the handouts, then I'm coming to the value worksheet. So checklist, handouts, then the compassionate choices, that value worksheet, the different check boxes. So I walked them through the breathing support. What does this look like? What do your values look like? Scenario-based decisions. And then at the very end, because again, they have to fill it out, I give them what language to use. Again, the language was not covered in the class. So I give them what language to use. Then this is not just, the remaining documents I give. Some of them are part of Living Will. Some of it is a little bit more planning. The app Peace End of Life Preparation Toolkit that I created. Again, this is my creation. But, smartphone, the digital ID smart way goes over advanced directives. The wallet card, yes, the class did give out several wallet cards. Um, debt certificate preparation, conversation starters as well, understanding your circle of care, additional services, some closing thoughts. I have my infographic for what is an end-of-life doula. I have a quick care options for the family. Maybe your living will doesn't need to get kicked in right then, here and there, but you don't know the difference between home health, hospice, caregiving services, end-of-life doula. So this goes over that. Then there's I'll put in a link in the description below. We're coming to a close shortly, but Taboo Education has a channel. I really like this. Is a free document of theirs. I do print the first 6 pages because I'm just trying to save on printing costs. But this is like, what happens when somebody dies? And this, by the way, goes over, get your pets, get your pets, get your pets. And they do a good job. So what I end up doing in terms of if you're doing it themselves, just to give you a quick summary, again, you want something that's going to be more in detail than this video. It does heavily reference the 5wishes.org, which if you're inclusive, you'll include them, versus being exclusive, Beyond the Living Will. And that's on Amazon. I'll put in the description below. And it walks you through, including the conversations. By the way, my book, Crucial Conversations at End of Life, it doesn't deal with this, but it does deal with nutrition topics, IV fluid topics, so on and so forth. Topics, just bear with me. Crucial End of Life Conversations. Okay, so that has about, it's again, being crystal clear, transparent, not about having a conversation about a living will, but if you want to, how do I have this discussion about the feeding tube? How do I have this discussion about IV fluids at end of life and so on? That is covered in this book, How to Have Those Conversations. But what I do, again, in brief, number one, pick what you want to master. Again, I do both. 5wishes.org, 5wishes.org, that's been associated with Mother Teresa in 1996. 5wishes.org, know it inside and out, every single page of the document. Your state directive, and again, I'll put in the description below how to find your state directives. And again, the Google search, I'll put in the description below. You want to know those documents inside and out. You want to know the pros and the cons of each document that you work with. You don't share your biases that you have. Like I shared with you my bias for the mental health directive when I'm talking to my client. I do not share my biases. Don't bash the forms that you're using. I go over the form. I give them what they want to know. I don't even go pros and cons unless they're asking, because I don't want to slip up and bash the form. The form's not at fault. The form's a tool. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. I don't bash the tool. I don't bash the organization. I give guidance. They're filling out blue ink, and I'm telling them notarize. So here, when we're talking about having the forms filled out, if I have the different addendums, every addendum reference one of, two of, three of, the of being filled in based on how many you use, and then you put that on. So when I did my own advanced directives, which I did, right now they're not notarized because our attorney did ours. But like I have my DNR form, so I would have, that one you don't need notarized, but because again, Madison County does it for free. Hey, can we have this stamped and notarized? But here your Kentucky Advanced Directive. In my case, the reason, by the way, if you're in Kentucky, use this one versus the one at the hospitals. The one at the hospitals, bear with me. Don't have it too far away. This is the one that you're going to find at the hospital if you're in Kentucky. Hospitals, a lot of doctors are using this. This is two attorney generals past. It's outdated. And while it still would be valid, the catch-22 is it does not give you a lot of room to fill in certain information. And what I like about the most current form is, and I'm not going to show I want to see how to do this. I want to show the top because of protecting my privacy for powers of attorney, because I do have multiple. But here I'm putting my wishes, but then again, you get to put other directives on as well, and attach additional pages. And this is where, when you attach those additional pages, what I would do is, if I'm attaching additional pages, I'd leave room here. You have room here, and I'd be putting in attached reference 1 of X, dementia directive, advanced attached, number 2 of X, mental health directives, and so on. And each of those additional documents would be witnessed and notarized. So you don't want to leave any gaps, any holes as part of your picture. And so I would have that conversation. Sorry about this, I'm losing track. So I'd have that conversation as I'm going through my checklist. I'd walk them through the forms. I'd walk them through the stuff I have on my left side of the packet. I'd walk them through compassionate choice and values, the worksheets, and I'll sit and work with them and let them fill out the forms. Most of the ones that are saying, Peter, I'll pay versus I'll do it for free. And just so you know, if they're doing it for free, I don't mind sitting with them. Am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? And then I'll leave it to them. If we meet at the library, that's easy for me to be there while they get it witnessed and notarized. I will not be a witness. I cannot be a witness if I've helped with the documentation. And again, if I ever became a notary, I won't notarize. So I do appreciate your watching. This is the end. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments below. Thank you so much. Take care and bye.